In my Why I Don't Have an Android Device video, I mentioned the possibility of me getting the Razer mobile device thing that they were teasing, I believe it was about a month ago. And I did, mention the possibility of if that device that Razer was going to announce was ever good enough, I might make the switch to Android because, Razer has had history with Android. And I figured, if Razer, because I like Razer, I don't think they're the best company in the world, but I do support some of their products. I have the Razer Kraken headset, and I have the mouse pad and their Death Adder mouse, and they're good products. They're quality products, and I respect the brand or the company, and I like them. I even have Razer glasses, which I think I mentioned on my Twitter. But anyway, I like the company. Long story short, I don't think I'm a fanboy, but we can agree to disagree in the comments or whatever. But anyway, when I saw that they were going to make a phone, or at least some sort of a mobile device, that got me really hyped because Razer makes some really good products and they know who their target audience is. Gamers. So once I found out they were going to somehow target the mobile gaming audience, which coincidentally is me, and I'm assuming if you were watching this video, you too, I was pretty hyped. I was pretty excited, to say the least. And today, they officially announced the Razer Phone. I hoped it was going to be called the Razer Blade Phone, but whatever. So, yeah, I'm definitely not going to make the switch to Android anytime soon, and I'm going to, explain why this is and my thoughts on the Razer Blade Phone. I'm going to call it the Razer Blade Phone now. It's like when Apple announced the Apple Watch, everyone was calling it iWatch. Anyway, so yeah, let's go over the phone a bit. You can see some pictures of it right now. It looks pretty good. Now, after Razer acquired the company known as Nextbit, who made the Nextbit Robin back in 2016, everyone knew that Razer was they were going to do something in the mobile scene, whether that be a tablet or a smartphone. The acquisition of Nextbit, kind of led to the fact that, Razer is definitely up to something here. So we knew this was coming, but yeah, so you can see, in the phone, it definitely resembles the Nextbit Robin, which is not a bad thing. While the Nextbit Robin was made out of plastic, and you can literally snap the thing with your hands, the Razer Blade, from what I've seen and what I've heard, is made out of metal. So it's not going to be snapping on you anytime soon. So that's good to hear. There is dual front-firing speakers, which is really cool for watching YouTube videos and playing games by yourself if you don't need to use headphones, and I'll talk about headphones in a minute here. The front-firing speakers apparently sound awesome, and I'm really, happy that they added that. That's a really cool feature that, a lot of smartphones these days just have this single downward-facing speaker, which sounds terrible. But yeah, I think it was a good decision to cut the, infinity display or, whatever display they were, might push to the edge of the phone, basically. I think it was a good trade-off to cut that new technology off for front-firing speakers. That's good. If you see, like, the Galaxy S8 has the edge-to-edge screen and all that sort of stuff. Razer, was like, okay, we're just going to go traditional on this, and I respect that, and I like that, and I think the front-firing speakers are a good move. And, audio is important. And again, I'll talk about more audio later. Dual camera setup, pretty obvious. It was going to happen. Every smartphone now has dual cameras. I'm not going to complain about that. USB Type-C, which is great. Snapdragon 835 and 8 gigabytes of RAM. 8 gigs of RAM in a smartphone is insane. That's more RAM than my crappy laptop has, for crying out loud. That's more RAM than some of the MacBooks out there. I think most MacBooks now have 8 gigs, but anyway, it's the same as a laptop, which is awesome. And that Snapdragon 835 is where things start to fall short. So, while editing this video, I forgot to mention the 120Hz display. I apologize for interjecting here, but I did want to touch on it and at least mention that this thing does have a 1440p display at 120Hz, which is absolutely insane for a mobile device. However, most games these days are at 60 FPS locked and with VSync, and most intensive games aren't going to be able to reach that 120 FPS, as I will mention with the Snapdragon 835, and I think most developers won't want to spend the time to optimize their games for 120 Hz. Now, onto what I was actually going to say. Now, as a phone processor, the Snapdragon 835, as seen in the Galaxy S8 and in the Pixel 2, is a really good processor. I believe it's an octa-core processor with an Adreno 540 GPU, if I'm not mistaken. And for day-to-day use and battery life and regular performance and productivity, it's great. If you want to use your phone as like a work phone or whatever, the Snapdragon 835 will do wonders. You don't need to buy an expensive iPhone 8 Plus. You can go with a phone that has a Snapdragon 835 and it would do awesome. However, Razer is obviously targeting this phone towards gamers. And the Snapdragon 835 isn't really the best gaming CPU. Now, everyone in the comments is probably going to be like, what do you mean it's not the best? It's 8 cores. That's more than, I think, the iPhone 8 has 6 cores now. Anyway, it has more cores than the iPhone. It has more this than iPhone. It's faster than blah, 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 blah. Okay, spec-wise, it may be faster than iPhones or iPads. However, once you get into things like Geekbench and games, that's where this thing starts to fall apart and just, it's almost laughable. If you're going to pay $700 for a phone that has this processor, you'd expect all new games to run fairly smoothly, but that's not the point, or that's not the case, sorry. Most games don't run very smoothly on this processor, especially the newest games, such as Modern Combat Versus, and, again, that's where I think Razer started making their bad decisions. Now, in the Nintendo Switch, and I'm making this sort of comparison because in the Nintendo Switch, you could call it a mobile console. It's not, it is a handheld, it's not a phone, but anyway, that has a custom NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor, which is also conveniently sort of the same architecture found in the NVIDIA Shield, which is a very popular Android tablet, one of which I was actually personally considering getting instead of my iPhone 6s, but, some things happened and I just preferred iOS over Android. And long story short, I got an iPhone, obviously, instead of the NVIDIA Shield. I think it would have been a much better decision for Razer to make some sort of, or to work with NVIDIA to make some sort of a custom mobile processor instead of going with the regular Snapdragon 835. I think this would have done a lot more in terms of customization, in terms of what Razer wanted, and also stability and optimization, especially. If they wanted the CPU to be dedicated for gaming, I think they could have achieved this way better if they worked with NVIDIA to develop a custom processor and GPU for this device. And the fact that they went with the regular 835 and Adreno 540 is okay, but not for gaming, in my opinion, especially if you want to record your games and all that stuff. I don't think it's going to hold up very well. Especially in the next 1 or 2 years to come, because while Android, you could say that it's around 2 years behind iOS in terms of physical hardware, and I do believe that's true. Again, this is where the phone's performance and the gaming side of things starts to degrade, in my opinion. For content consumption, like watching YouTube videos, Netflix, all that sort of stuff, the Snapdragon 835 is really good. It's really good. There's not much to say about it. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever because I still think an iPhone's processor will outdo it. But you're not making any compromises if you're just watching videos or playing light games like Clash of Clans or something like that. Like that doesn't require too much power. But once you get into games like Modern Combat Versus, that's where this processor starts to fall apart. So yeah, that's the first thing that sort of made me go on the phone. And then this next thing was a deal breaker for me. No headphone jack. Now, some of you guys might be saying, well, just use Bluetooth headphones or use the adapter or do this or do that. Yeah, no, I want a headphone jack. It's simple. It's straightforward. I want to be able to charge my phone and play games at the same time. I think that is a must. I don't want to use their included dongle, which looks obscene, especially if I'm out in public. I don't think that looks amazing, and I don't think it's convenient too. I don't really care how I look in public now that I mention that, but the fact that I have to connect my headphones and then connect them to the phone is utterly ridiculous, in my opinion, and I can't charge and play at the same time. Now, you could say go get an adapter or do this and do that. And yes, I could use an adapter, but again, that would be inconvenient to have a dongle sticking out of my pocket when I'm walking, to and from class, or I'm going home, or if I'm gaming at home, having a dongle sticking out of my phone that connects my headphones and my charger. I think that's inconvenient, it's useless, and especially if I'm taking on and off a case, or if I'm doing something else, if I have a skin, or things get complicated when you have extra cords, and I don't like that. And right now, as I'm recording this on my phone with a microphone plugged in to the phone's 3.5mm headphone jack. I have an iPhone 6s, and I plug in my HyperX Cloud 2 microphone directly into the jack, and the audio sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound as good as my other microphone on my or my USB microphone that I want to use soon, but it gets the job done, and I think it's okay. I mean, to have a dongle on my Razer phone, hypothetically, that was flapping around, I couldn't do this. Right now, because it's in a stationary jack, like it's not going anywhere, I can hold my phone up and I can record easily. But with a dongle, it's just going to get really messy and complicated. So long story short, I don't want a dongle for my phone. I don't want to have to make a compromise like that. Now, I understand that they did this because they had a bigger battery and the front-firing speakers, but I would totally get rid of 500 or even 1,000 milliamps of battery power for a headphone jack. Like, I always carry around a battery bank. I don't think there's a need to have a 4,000 milliamp battery. Of course, you need an okay battery. If this thing had a 1,000 milliamp battery, I would be like, what the heck? But I always carry around a battery bank, and I think most mobile gamers would as well, so I don't understand why they would squeeze in more battery instead of putting in a headphone jack. I don't think that's a good design choice. And also, this phone isn't water resistant because of those front-firing speakers, so I don't see any other point to not having a headphone jack other than the fact that they wanted to have just a bit of extra battery, and I don't agree with that decision. But yeah, that is the one thing that killed my interest in the Razer phone. Now, if they ever come out with a tablet or another more expensive phone or something like that with a headphone jack, maybe I'll reconsider, maybe, just maybe, but with the fact that it does run Android and not iOS, still, I'm not happy with Android's state of gaming and optimization and user interface and stuff like that. I don't particularly like Android over iOS, and it's that simple. But yeah, I've been rambling about this for 11 minutes and 30 seconds now. Point is, I like the Razer phone as a phone, not as a gaming, recording, or editing phone. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Razer phone in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See ya.